Every parent and athlete knows the value of a great coach, not just in the game, but in life. But what exactly makes a great coach? Is it their knowledge of the sport, their ability to motivate, or is it something deeper? In this episode, we explore the qualities that define the best coaches in youth sports. From building trust and fostering a positive team culture to knowing when to push and when to listen. We'll uncover the essential traits that set exceptional coaches apart. Research from the Positive Coaching Alliance shows that teams with coaches trained in positive reinforcement and effective communication have 50% higher retention rates of players. Whether you're on the sideline or in the stands, understanding what it takes to make a great coach can transform the way you view the game. Coaching is more than just wins and losses. It's about shaping character, instilling confidence, and creating memories that last a lifetime. Join us as we celebrate the coaches who go above and beyond and learn how their influence extends far beyond the field. Because great coaches, they don't just teach you the game, they teach you about life.
So let's go back to the value of coaching. Whether it's in sport and or life, we all need someone to help us grow. Like nobody does it alone. We need someone else to hold up mirrors, to hold us accountable, to help keep a standard. And what they're coaching, hopefully the best coaches, they're coaching technical skills and they're coaching character development. It's both of those. And there is a decision to make at some point. Do I go with the technically sound coach who diminishes my child, who belittles people to get them to work harder, who creates anxiety by phrasing like, somebody out there is working harder, somebody in Utah is getting in the gym? That'll help a kid feel anxious enough to go do some work, but it's also the breeding ground or the broth for the soup of anxiety. So it is really important that we are figuring out that right balance between skill development and character development. And the skills for me are technical and mental. And long gone are the days where it's only technical skill development. The best coaches are using the 2 hours or 90 minutes of practice to teach technical skills, where to hold your body, the shape you want to put a body in to be repeated success or have repeated success. And what are the mental skills? They're quite clear. Teach the kids how to breathe. I don't know if you're doing this yet, but teach them before or at the middle or at the end of practice. Just get 10 breaths in, 10 long breaths. Hey, everyone, great practice. We're going to shut her down just a little bit. 3 deep breaths. We're going to do it as a team. Then you move 3 to 6, and then you move 6 to 9, right? And just some deep breathing, because what happens game time for most people is they tighten up.
Yeah, it gets anxious.
And so if we're not teaching how to be calm and only technical skills, we're running them right into a choke point, right? There is no reason why a kid should be anxious or nervous unless anxiety and sits underneath the surface, or we haven't taught them the skills.
I love coaching my own kids, but just everyone else's kids. I genuinely love seeing these kids, the light bulb go on in the back of their brain. You know what I mean? Like the kind of the blank stare you'd get in the beginning, and then all of a sudden, like you can just see it. You can see it on their face. They're like, I got it. Like, I get it now. I know what he's been saying to me now for all these weeks when I didn't want to hear it. I get it. Like when that light bulb and that sparkle in their eye goes, man, it's the best. Like I love it.
I have repeated your practice, the way that you end practice, to more coaches than you will, I hope you really appreciate it, then you'll know for sure. What you do at the end of practices is brilliant. So coaches gather all the kids in, and then you gather the coaches or the parents right behind. I'm telling you, it's a game changer practice. It's unbelievable because you have just shorthanded the overwhelming task of a kid trying to translate what just happened for 2 hours to an adult who's impossible. Much smarter, much worldly, very invested, a little sometimes too much. And that practice is radical. So I hope each listener can understand to try to get their coach or club to embrace what you do if they're not the coach.
Yeah.
Right? Is like, hey, there's this practice that Greg Olsen does that at the end he calls the kids in and he includes the parents to increase the quality of the car ride home. Yeah. It's a radical. A friend of mine coaches national championships multiple national championships in high school volleyball, which is at the D1 high school level, it's quite an accomplishment. And at the beginning of every season, he pulls all the parents in, and he says to them, look, I'm going to tell each of you right now why your kid is not playing. Because I don't think they're good enough. And so from that moment, he says, I don't get any politics. It's very clear. He says, I am responsible for making an assessment that they don't have what it takes yet to start or have playtime. So it rests on me. It falls on me. I'm not playing politics. If you're curious about why your kid is not getting playtime, it's because I don't think they're good enough yet. It's so clear, and it just reduces all of the ambiguity, all of the tension, because it rests on one person's decisions. It really, let's remember, most kids are not going to go on and play pro sports. Most kids are not going to go on and play in college. Most kids are using their high school age or younger experience to learn about who they are, to learn about taking risks, to learn about what it means to be let down, what it means to be a great teammate and a terrible teammate. Like, there's so many life lessons.
We went through it with my daughter. She's gotten into basketball in the last year or so. And, she wants to play on the best team, but she wasn't ready. Like, her skills and experience were just not ready relative to the other girls in her age. And we were very clear with her. We got to practice more. You got to keep the ball in your hand more, and you got to develop. And she wanted to just keep playing. She wanted to keep playing. And now she's going to be on a team where there's a lot of really good girls. And where is she on the hierarchy? I don't know. I have nothing to do with the team. I don't help. The practices I go to, the games I go to, I am pure dad. I'm not even helping a little bit. I have nothing to do with it, which is probably a good thing. And, but my point is, I don't know what the games are going to look like in the beginning. Hopefully she grows and develops a role, and we'll let all that sort out. But man, the coach during the week does such a good job in practice with its skill development, but also she's very tough on them. She holds them accountable. She doesn't take any baby stuff. Like, she really coaches these girls hard. And like what I like, she's a young female coach. She does a great job. So I say, you know what? If this weekend she only gets a quarter, a half in each game, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And because Monday through Friday, she's going to get so much growth and development that at this young age,
there's a balance. There's a balance to sort out.
She can't not play at all. That's not good for her either.
That's right. Yeah.
But man, I'll take good coaching and good weekly development over just roll the ball out. Yeah, you're going to play every minute, but no one's getting any better. I have no patience for that. Our guest for this episode of You Think is UCLA head men's basketball coach Mick Cronin. With over 30 years of experience both coaching and recruiting at the highest level, Coach Cronin is one of the most respected voices in all of college sports. He'll share his insights on developing youth athletes and building a winning culture from the ground up. What's up, everybody? So on my way home, on the flight coming back from my conversation with Mick Cronin for You Think, I started thinking about what are the key takeaways that I could take from that conversation that can make me a better coach. And I think through this entire journey on You Think, hopefully you guys are getting a lot through these conversations, but I know I'm probably taking away just as much. Mick's approach to coaching and his insights into building trust and resilience in young athletes. And what's really exciting for us here is that Mick is going to continue to be a big part of the Youth Inc. platform moving forward. He's going to collaborate with other coaches, parents, to share a lot of that wisdom and strategy from the basketball world and beyond. So here are some of the key traits from the great coaches that I took away from this conversation with Mick. So let's dive in. He reminded us that building relationships is at the heart of successful coaching. He shared how growing up with a high school coach for a dad showed him the importance of building those bonds that were based on trust and respect, not just on the skills. And I think in youth sports, coaches often spend more time with youth athletes than their own parents do, giving coaches a very unique opportunity, but also a responsibility to help guide these young kids through critical life lessons. A big part of Coach Cronin's message was also about teaching resilience and responsibility. In a time when it's easier than ever to just move from one team to another, Mick emphasized the importance of not letting youth athletes skip steps just to get more playing time. He said that developing grit comes from sticking with the team, fighting through challenges, and learning to embrace every role, whether they're the star or supporting player. It's not just about sports, it's a lesson in accountability that will serve them in every part of life. We also talked about balancing skill development with character building. I think that's such a critical role of all coaching, regardless of the level. The best coaches, like Mick, he teaches both technical and mental skills, not just how to win games, but how to handle pressure, how to build self-confidence, how to support teammates. This mental training equips young athletes with tools they can use in any challenge. Finally, Coach Cronin highlights the importance of family and life outside of sports. And as a college coach, he makes sure his players see that the commitment he makes to his own family, that comes first. And it's a great reminder to parents and coaches that as much as we all love sports, it is essential to show these young athletes that life is more than just winning and losing. To sum it up, today's episode underscores that the journey in youth sports isn't just about skill. It's about building relationships, teaching resilience, and finding balance. It's about helping kids grow into confident, well-rounded people prepared for challenges well beyond the game.
You know, back when my dad coached and your dad coached, it was simply build character and a way for kids to learn how to fail. Learn how to fail. Learn how to get. And the problem is, you know, selfishly, you get a player that's never failed. It's just he's been told transfer high schools, transfer some in our sport summer teams, and he's never had to fight through anything. So you get back to getting in that living room, and it's, well, is this guy just going to give me what I want? And that's what the parents, they may want, hey, this guy's, he's going to start my son, he's going to let him do what he wants to do, and we're going pro. Well, I'm not going to, they know that I'm going to coach him because I won't be able to sleep if I don't try to coach him.
How much do you look at that? You're recruiting a kid. How much do you look at how many schools they've been to, how many travel ball teams they've played on every summer? Like, I want to dive more into that because we see it. My kids play a lot of competitive travel baseball. Kids show up on a different team every weekend. And I think it doesn't seem that big of a deal, seems innocent when they're 10, 12. But I think the point you brought up, I think, is so interesting. It breeds this idea of, I don't like the role on my team now. Instead of starting with what can I do to improve it, it's there's a team on every corner. And I can artificially improve my standing by just changing what jersey I'm wearing. Is that sustainable, and is that the model we want? So take it further. You're seeing the product of this environment now enter your world.
Yeah, 100%.
How much do you guys value? And then what do you see? Like, what are the characteristics you see of the kid who bounced around multiple schools every year, multiple travel teams, and then what do you see at the college level versus the kid that might not have started until he was a junior in high school, but he played on the same team with all the kids from his hometown and he battled? That kid turned into a hell of a player. Like, what do you see that journey, the end result at your level?
I would say it's the number one reasons certain guys don't succeed, but they were predicted to with their talent level. The trappings of the system get them because they skip steps. Nobody wants this. You start skipping steps of real development, and you had a great line about just artificially improve yourself by going to a certain team or a certain school. You didn't really get any better.
Yeah, I became the shortstop, not because I improved. I just went to a team that didn't have as good a shortstop.
So you've never had to earn anything.
Exactly.
I mean, that's it. And then what happened, eventually, I always tell my guys I like boxing because eventually you got to get in the ring and ring the bell and prove yourself. That's just the way it is. Like, there is
nowhere to go.
They can talk all they want the night before, but Mike Tyson said, eventually you got to get in the ring. You say whatever you want, but I'm not wearing any socks and I'm coming tomorrow. So like you eventually got to do it. The great example, like for me and all coaches, and love the guy that played for me, Jaime Jaquez, and Eric Spoelstra had a great line that said Miami Heat loved him because he didn't skip steps. He got in the lineup as a hustle guy as a freshman, as a tough guy as a sophomore, one of the better players as a junior, and an All-American as a senior. And they said he had played every role that he had to play on his team. And the hard thing is in youth sports when you transition is because you're the most talented player, if you have that type of player, he doesn't know how to function when he's not the most talented player anymore. And it's a distinct advantage for somebody that's had to do that. That's why I've always been jealous of football, because there's a depth chart. Older guys play, younger guys tend to sit. You got to work your way up.
It's only one ball, 11 guys, not everyone touches it.
When the nose tackle's tying his shoes, he's not thinking about getting touchdowns.
No.
He's thinking about plugging his gap. I mean,
Everyone's got to roll.
Yeah,
it's the ultimate in that regard.
In my sport, everybody thinks it's the night they're getting 30.
Yeah.
When they tie their shoes, everybody thinks it's the night. And it's understandable, but it's a huge advantage for the player you talked about that has gone through a process and had to fight through becoming who he has become instead of just being anointed.
This episode of You Think is brought to you by Players Health, a company that believes youth athletes deserve the safest and the most accessible environments possible to play the sports they love. Instead of reading an ad to you, we're going to try something a little bit different. I'm going to have a conversation with the Players Health management team and one of their key customers to help you better understand what problems Players Health is solving for their partners and how they allow kids to feel safe when playing the games they love. To break this down, I spoke with Kyle Lubrano. She's the Chief Mission Delivery Officer at Players Health, and we had a conversation to discuss what sets Players Health apart. And Joel Dragan, client of Players Health and the Executive Director of Florida Youth Soccer. So happy here with You Think to be joined by Kyle Lubrano with Players Health. For everyone listening, just give us a quick snapshot, Players Health, what your role is in this youth sports experience, what services you guys are providing that are making people like me that are trying to run teams and run organizations and just making sure we comply and are covered from that standpoint.
Yeah, so we're a specialty insurance firm. We focus on risk management through athlete safety. We focus every day on making sure that we're not just slinging insurance policies, that we are providing, the risk mitigation pieces and all the things in athlete safety that you need to be doing in terms of education, compliance, background checks, and making sure that they have the foundation, policies and procedures, sort of expectations of what the behavior should be within that organization.
What was the genesis? Did you guys see a hole in this and say people are really struggling managing all of this?
Yeah, and I think at first it was sort of injury management. That's sort of where our CEO started things. And then at that point realized that, there's a huge issue in insurance and organizations are becoming uninsurable. And so saw an opportunity to kind of combine, just started to make sense. Like, we can get organizations insurance and we can help them with athlete safety and really not only protect the athletes, but start to reduce the amount of claims that were coming through.
So you're saying now through Players Health, like we can keep track of injuries, return to play, like you can almost bank and see a little bit more of your track record now in the youth level?
So we started in injury management. It's not a product that we continue to kind of build. We have claims data that would be able to, kind of track, not by person, but the organization's sort of level of how many, say, knee injuries, and then use that data. Like right now, we're working with the Aspen Institute on the National ACL Coalition to use data to be able to then go to carriers and say, hey, if we start having organizations introduce neuromuscular training, can we kind of give them a credit on their insurance to be able to kind of get them to do this really important thing?
Oh, interesting. So you guys can develop like pre-injury type protocols. Yeah. And then once you guys can show that those reduce hospital stays, reduce visits, surgeries, rehab, PT clinic, you can then now work on the other side, which the insurance company, and I say, hey, give us a little bit of an offset here because look at what we're doing to save you future expenses.
The interest is very much there. On our end, when we're the carrier on the case, it's a no-brainer. We're doing it. We know that there's a direct correlation. So yeah, there's a lot of interest in it.
So how do we increase the access to this information and then the resources to apply it?
It's not an issue to be able to do that, kind of hands-on work with a national governing body or a large state organization, but it's those little grassroots organizations that, we can't sit with every single one of them. But there's this whole educational model of prevention in, say, building the right policies, down to, like abuse prevention policies, all the way down to like sudden cardiac arrest, making sure that you have protocols in place. What we've built is, if you are a small organization, you can go online, buy your insurance, and then you get, put into our system called the Safety Hub, and you have access to a whole athlete safety library that has every policy and procedure that you would need, and it has a tutorial on how to actually, write it for yourself. We also give them the ability to assess their risk risk right off the bat, so they can go and see what gaps they have in policy, because most of them don't know what they need to have in place.
Yeah,
so
it's super cool to hear like that's the approach that you guys take, and we appreciate Players Health for being a part of our journey of storytelling. Here at You Think, we want to bring value to you, the parents, coaches, the athletes listening, in everything that we do. Check out Players Health today and let them know Youth Inc. sent you. Now, back to the episode.
What is the cost of being, a son of a great coach?
You can still be a great coach and a great parent. At the college level, you can travel, you can recruit, you can be stressed, you can still be a great parent. I was around Bob Huggins, great parent to 2 daughters, Coach Patino, 5 kids. So I had not only my own dad, but 2 Hall of Fame coaches I worked for were great dads as well. So I saw it firsthand, and that was a big mission of mine.
Is there a common thread amongst them of what they did really well that we could maybe pass on to our community? To be a great dual role is tricky. It's hard enough to be a great single role, but are there any common threads that you would say, here's a few things that I think would be really important for?
Yeah, you have to make their life as important as yours.
If you stopped there, it would be a brilliant parenting, coaching takeaway. Like, make their life as important as yours.
Yeah, or really it should be more so. I'll tell you something helped me last year. I hadn't missed the NCAA tournament in many, many, many years. But I got to see the spring musical at Campbell Hall High School, where my daughter was like the second lead, and I'd never seen it. I'd always had to watch the spring musical on my on the iPad, on the replay, but I had never seen that before. So it was like, I was like, I'm not the most religious guy, but God threw me a bone here, right? He gave me humble pie. I didn't make the tournament, but I got to see the spring musical. So I think that's important. I think you can't take it's just, to me, it's low-hanging fruit to use excuses. I'm busy, I got to win. Like, to me, that's all an excuse.
That famous story Bruce Arians told all of his assistant coach when he was the head coach, obviously head coach in multiple spots, but most recently before he retired, obviously won the Super Bowl there at Tampa Bay with the Bucks and Brady and them. He had a rule. He said, if I ever find out you miss a game, a recital, a performance, because you're sitting in your office at 8 o'clock on a Wednesday watching football tape, you're fired.
I love that.
You're fired. You can't coach for me.
That doesn't surprise me.
I love that.
Obviously doing this for a living, I try to watch as many other coaches and just listen to them and get a feel, and to try to something you can pick up. And I've always liked him. Obviously never met him, but he just seemed like the coolest guy.
It's not a bad rule.
Yeah, I just think it's somewhere along the line in the coaching world, it became in vogue to say, especially in NFL.
It's an epidemic.
I sleep in my office. I work 20 hours a day. First of all, no, you don't.
If you weren't able to tell people you did it, no one would do it.
Right.
They do it so they can say they do it.
I'm with you.
If you can't get it done in, let's call it 14 hours.
We're not building rockets.
Definitely not building rockets, but now with the technology. So like when I first worked with Coach Huggins, like we would have one tape. Like I'd actually have to go out to the airport for Delta Dash to get the tape, the scouting tape. And you're calling the guy to make sure he gets it on the plane, for the next game. It was a different era. Yeah. And then, then you're driving to his house to watch the tape of your next opponent. And like, that's all over. Everybody's got an iPad. Everybody's got all the technology. We call it Synergy and Dragonfly and all this stuff that you sit around literally and watch film 24 hours a day with two screen touches of anything. And I'm talking recruits now. It's even now recruits. You tell me about a kid, we're talking hoops, and you're telling me about a game in North Carolina. Like, I can go watch it. We're done with it today. I can just go watch it. Yeah. Like 2 taps, I'm watching it. You tell me about a kid, I'm type his name in, I'm watching it. So you don't, in this day and age, there's no need to sit in the office like there was 30 years ago. But I'm with you. It's overrated. Like Greg said, it's self-promoting.
There is something really cool that happened. So when I was at the Seahawks, once a week we would have all the family come in for a dinner, and that was a bit unheard of. But when you see it was for the coaches, not the athletes. When you see the coaches around their family and there's a bunch of kids, little kids mostly around, it changes. It changes the adults. You see a different side. You become a little bit closer because you meet their kids. And then when it comes to hard conversations, you have a little better understanding. So when the kids are around, I think we are better. And that old school idea of grind till you know, whatever, not only are we not thinking clearly and well, but we've created a wake of destruction behind us. And so I hope that people hear what you're talking about right now.
My dad told me a long time ago, you know, there's like 500 million people in Asia that could care less who wins this game. You know, it's not that important. You know,
Remember.
I mean, what do we think it is?
I didn't sleep last night because I lost my middle school football game, so I could have used your dad's advice.
We got to have a talk after the show. We got to have a talk. So, but I mean, you know, you got the competitive side, but you have to have some sort of barometer to bring yourself back. Like, your family is more important. You know, like when I first got to UCLA, Josh Palmer, my assistant coach, Rod, you know, so Josh is going to be a senior, so he's like going into 7th grade or so. And he's like, can Josh come to practice? I said, Rod, don't ever ask that again. Like, he can always come to practice. He can always be in the locker room. Now, I may get upset and throw some people out, so, you know, I think Josh might have got thrown out once. But he thought it was cool. I got thrown out of the locker room, you know. Yeah, you don't ever have to ask me that again. You know, my other assistant now, Yogi from Serbia, he's got 2 young boys. They're at practice all the time. Like, you don't even have to ask me.
It's really cool.
You know, like, because when they get a day off of school and they want to be with their dad, because we travel enough, like it's not as like you said, or it's not rocket science, first of all, and you know, your kid, we're away from them enough. So when you can include your family, you should include your family.
Yeah. And it kind of leads to something I wanted to talk to you a lot about. Mike and I have had this conversation. We're actually having it right before you got here. Just how important those right? Everything in sport is relationship driven. There's a relationship between the parent and the athlete. There's a relationship amongst the athletes on the team. And then really one of the biggest roles for all the adults is that coach, that person that you entrust to coach your child, whether it's middle school football or high level competitive Division I basketball. That coach's responsibility to form a relationship where he's not just vested into the skill development of your child, but as Mike said to me earlier, you spend more time with the child than the parent does. Where did you learn just the power of relationship, the power of building those bonds with players, not only for them and their parents to trust them, to send them to you, to coach them, but to then lead them through their entire journey and send them off, hopefully, to the NBA. But I'm sure you sent a lot of guys not to the NBA that just had to go be men and just be parents and be husbands and fathers. Like, where did that relationship, that priority in building those bonds and relationships, like where does that root back to?
Oh, son of a high school coach. Because you look, you know, my dad lost, you know, a lot of money that he could have been making coaching high school. You know, your dad, they didn't make any money now. I mean, you made your money teaching, you made your money teacher, you make same, you know, they didn't make, if you give a high school coach, what was their hourly wage? It was like 10 cents.
Oh yeah.
You know, it was like, come on. So they coach because they love the game, they love the kids, they're trying to teach young guys right from wrong. So that was always my background. And like like that has never changed, but it's challenging because it does affect you, because people say, you know, that, oh, okay, well, he's hard on his guys. No. I spell love and discipline the same way. And I tell my guys, I'm not going to use you. Like, when you're 28, I don't want you to say, well, he knew that I was doing some things I shouldn't have been doing, and he never said anything because he just I was one of the better players and he wanted to win games. You know, when you're 28, I want you to say, look, sometimes that guy was tough to play for, but he cared about me. Now, everybody thinks they should have shot the ball more. Yeah, right. That's okay in basketball. Right. Yeah. Like wide receivers, you should get more touches.
Yeah, you got more touches.
You know, and that's okay. You know, I think my dad should have let me shoot more, you know, and played me over my brother. You know, we're all, you know, when it comes to that stuff.
He's shaking his head off camera.
He's letting us know right now.
Was his brother better? We'll get to that later.
He was older, no question. But, you know, the ego of a player, right? I mean, you went through it. So I'm okay with that. But to me, I'm never like, and I don't look. I'm 22 years coming up as being a head coach, I think, and that's the number one thing. I try to keep that, do the right thing, and at the end of the day, it'll all work. Now, sometimes it chases some recruits away. They don't want to hear that. They just want to get the basketball piece, at my level and get to the pro level. And that's okay, but I can't turn off who I am.
Well, Coach, we appreciate it. We know you have a million things
Great
to do.
being here.
We appreciate it. Hope you have a good, nice weekend with your dad.
Yes.
And then I know you said you get back from the holiday weekend, you get right to work. So
right to it.
Good luck this year. We appreciate you joining us. There's a lot of really good nuggets that a lot of people are going to get a lot of value out of. So appreciate you joining us.
I appreciate it. Good being here. You know,
Best success next season. Like, we love
I'll take
watching
it.
you do your thing.
We're gonna be following.
Little luck.
And we're going to stay off the blogs.
Yeah.
So we are super excited today to be joined by the Executive Director of Florida Youth Soccer, Joel Dragan. I had a chance to learn a lot about Players Health. They are a new partner of ours here at Youth Inc. Florida Youth Soccer. Like, how did your relationship, how were you introduced to them, and maybe what needs did you guys have that you were searching for and then you were able to find once you partnered with them?
2020, we're in the middle of a pandemic. We had an awful claims experience, not just injuries, but some of the ugly stuff that you see in sport that really makes your insurance premiums jump. And we are working with brokers. We're talking to companies overseas. We're this close to being uninsurable. The very last minute, basically, we heard from this young new company, and in weeks, they were able to put a policy in front of us that met all of our needs, and frankly, and maybe most importantly, something that we could afford. Nobody will really know, and maybe this will get word out, how close we were to non-existence in 2020 and what Players Health did to pull us out of that. We're forever grateful.
I want to focus on some of the injury prevention stuff. We're not just going to be there to file your claims and help protect on return to play and rehab and PT, but also help developing these pre-injury protocols so that there are not the injuries at the same rate. There's not the same amount of insurance claims. Like in a sport like soccer, how important and how much time and effort do you guys, along with Players Health, put into protocols to prevent the knee injuries, especially with young girls? And a lot of things that we're learning are somewhat preventable.
I've put it as simply in the past as Players Health takes a proactive approach rather than a reactive approach. Most of these insurance companies that we've worked with out there in the past are only there when the problems occur. Right. And they're the first ones that I've seen in this market, in this industry, who have taken this idea of let's try to get preventative. And it's not just on the injury side, it is on the athlete safety and the abuse side. Just by shining a light on this, awareness out there in the community has really made a big difference, especially in the state of Florida. And the resources that they have and the technology that they have in place have really made us a safer soccer environment.
When you guys made that decision, what was that onboarding process? I think a lot of people are like, I don't want to change carriers. I don't want to change policies. I'm happy with what I have. Maybe it's an inferior, but it's what I know. How hard was that transition of onboarding them? And what would you say to people out there saying, okay, is it worth my time to get a new partner?
We left a carrier and a broker that we had been with for 20 plus years to go with Players Health. And frankly, we were expecting the worst. And it was anything but. These guys are just amazing. They know the industry inside and out. These guys helped us all the way through. And it was seamless. I can't tell you the proactive approach and how much it has helped Florida Youth Soccer Association, the exposure that they've been able to put out there, but the materials, the template policies that we have. Florida's truly a safer soccer environment since 2020 when we partnered with Players Health.
Check out Players Health today and let them know Youth Inc. sent you. Now, back to the episode. Thanks for joining us today here on Youth Inc. Let's wrap up with some key takeaways from our conversation with Coach Mick Cronin. First, he reminded us that building relationships is at the heart of successful coaching. He shared how growing up with a high school coach for a dad showed him the importance of building those bonds that were based on trust and respect, not just on the skills. And I think in youth sports, coaches often spend more time with youth athletes than their own parents do, giving coaches a very unique opportunity, but also a responsibility to help guide these young kids through critical life lessons. A big part of Coach Cronin's message was also about teaching resilience and responsibility. In a time when it's easier than ever to just move from one team to another, Mick emphasized the importance of not letting youth athletes skip steps just to get more playing time. He said that developing grit comes from sticking with the team, fighting through challenges, and learning to embrace every role, whether they're the star or supporting player. It's not just about sports, it's a lesson in accountability that will serve them in every part of life. We also talked about balancing skill development with character building. I think that's such a critical role of all coaching, regardless of the level. The best coaches, like Mick, he teaches both technical and mental skills. Not just how to win games, but how to handle pressure, how to build self-confidence, how to support teammates. This mental training equips young athletes with tools they can use in any challenge. Finally, Coach Cronin highlights the importance of family and life outside of sports. And as a college coach, he makes sure his players see that the commitment he makes to his own family, that comes first. And it's a great reminder to parents and coaches that as much as we all love sports, it is essential to show these young athletes that life is more than just winning and losing. To sum it up, today's episode underscores that the journey in youth sports isn't just about skill. It's about building relationships, teaching resilience, and finding balance. It's about helping kids grow into confident, well-rounded people prepared for challenges well beyond the game. Thanks for listening, and here's to raising the next generation of strong, resilient athletes one day at a time.